This lesson is on running MySQL interactively. Now, when you first download MAMP or WAMP, you get a file that lets you test out the database connection to MySQL. This is called testmysql.php, and it's just a little short PHP program. It runs this function, MySQL_connect, passing the server, the user ID, and the password, which is blank, and returns its success or failure into a $link variable. It checks the status of that connection and then puts out a message that it did not work or did work. So let's go ahead and test this. I've got it preloaded up here, so I'm going to just press the Enter key to run it, and it says the connection's okay. So let's go look at the server itself. We have over here the little WAMP icon. I'm going to click on it. Now what some people like to do is they go to this MySQL area and they run something called MySQL console. That allows you to have line-by-line access to MySQL, where you have to do one line at a time and initiate it and make a database connection before doing so. I'm going to avoid that. I like to work in a full screen area. I find it a lot easier to use and a lot easier to correct mistakes along the way. So there's two ways we can do this. There's a standard tool that comes with called PHP MyAdmin. So let me click that, and that'll put you in here. I've also written another tool that we can use for the class that's very simple and easy to use, and I'll give you that tool in your working files so you can use it. Now look over into the left, under the PHP MyAdmin logo, we see some databases that have already been predefined, and one is called Test. I'm going to click on that. Now under Test are some tables. Now those tables were not there originally. I created them. You can create a table with this Create Table button. Let me click on that, and I can put a table name in and various columns, and I can add columns down here. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to click on the Author table, and it comes up in the Browse mode automatically, so it shows me all the data in the Authors table. See last name, Social Security, phone, etc. And then there's some icons over here that allow me to copy, delete, or edit the values in these fields along the way. I can see the structure of the table by clicking on the Structure tab. I can see these are the columns that were defined in the table, and these are the data types, varchar 11. I can see its null status. It doesn't allow nulls in Social Security, but down in the phone number, it does. There's a SQL window, and here's where I could just run any SQL statement I want to. This has got the default one that brings back everything from the author table. Let's say I just wanted to see the last name from the author table. I go over here, double click, it puts it in the statement, and then I go over and click Go. And so now I see the last name column and all the last names. And that's all I'm seeing because that's all my SQL statement ran. We could do a search. Over here I can click on this and I can say, let's find the last name Smith. Scroll down and click on Go. And we have one author with the last name of Smith that's returned. I can insert more data here by putting in the various values, scrolling down and clicking Go. You can feel free to explore the other options in PHP MyAdmin. It's a very good tool for doing a lot of useful basic things in managing your database that you might not want to do in code. So I want to take you to the interface that I have. I have created a file here called MySQL_interface for WAMP. I'm going to run this, and right now it's not running. I have to change that to localhost and then hit the Enter key. Okay, now we've got an interface. So this is a simple interface for allowing us to run SQL statements interactively. When I say interactively, I mean we're going to run a statement here and we're going to see the results immediately. Eventually, our goal is to take these SQL statements that we need and put them in PHP programs and get them to run there. So let's try something that's similar to what we saw in PHP MyAdmin. Select star for all the columns from author, semicolon. Now I want to run that, so I click the button here, Submit SQL Statements. So it runs it. And down here I see the results. This is what I saw in the Browse window in PHP MyAdmin. So you can see it's got alternating colors in the back of the rows to help you follow along the data. There's no edit icons or anything like in PHP MyAdmin, but here we just wanted to see the results of our statement. And you can see the number of rows that came back below and that this was successful. Now I also over here have a SQL statement history, and it's going to put the latest statement you ran right at the top, so you can rerun it again. Let's go ahead and change this to another table I know I have called book. So I'll say show me all the data from book. I click that. I get all the data over here. ISBN, the title, etc. And I have both the statements, the last one I just ran and the one I ran previously. So if you need to go back, you can select that and do Control X, for example, or Control C for cut. Then I could do it again, and I could run that statement again, perhaps with some changes. So it's a very easy way to run SQL interactively using this MySQL interface for WAMP PHP program. Now, if I get a little too much going on over here in the history and I want to clear it, I can just click Delete History. If I make a really big mistake here with the select statement, I can click the clear box. Some SQL statements get rather complicated and they go over 4 or 5 lines. And that's why I like to use something like this. You don't have to put everything on one line. I can say select, Social Security number, last name, go to the next line from author, where last name equals Smith. That's what I did in the search. Submit it, and I get one person back, as I had before, but this time I just have 2 columns. The Social Security number and the last name are returned. So this is much easier to edit, so I encourage you to use this interface when you're working through the interactive SQL problems that we'll have through this chapter. Eventually, of course, we will be taking SQL statements out of here and putting them in our PHP programs and making them dynamic, where we pass dynamic data to the SQL statements from within the program itself. This ends our lesson on running MySQL interactively.